when people are friends in the DC area know that we're leaving, in the springtime, they say something like, well, have a good vacation. And I always correct them. And I say, it's not a vacation, it's a change of venue. And you have hit the nail on the head. We are now living here. We are not just vacationing here.
Hi, and welcome to Chatham Coffee Tour. Today I have my guest, Susan Wegner. Susan moved to the Cape for summers a while ago, and she has now really gotten involved in town, what's going on here. So she is really appreciated as someone who lives here part-time and really tries to help make Chatham better. So welcome, Susan.
Thank you. Thank you. Very excited to be here.
I love to hear about people that, didn't kind of grow up here, didn't live here year round, and then moved here and thought, wow, this place is kind of special. So tell us your story and tell us how you got to Chatham.
Perfect. Well, I am a wash ashore, full and full. Our dog Ryder is the only member of the family who is born here, and she comes from the Cape. But no, when I was 6 months old, my very young parents at the time in their mid-20s who had no money asked a neighbor in Rochester, New York, down the street, where they took their very large family. And the gentleman, so the story goes, told my father there was nowhere else that he should take his family than Chatham, Massachusetts. And so starting when I was about 6 months old, we would load up the car in the middle of the night because it saved on a hotel room, and we would arrive in Chatham sometime in the morning from Rochester, and we started coming here regularly. And then my brother followed along a few years later, and that was the pattern until we moved to California. And in those days, you didn't just drop everything and fly across the country. So there was a very lengthy period of time where I had fond memories, but was not in Chatham. And then that picked up again in sort of my teen years or a little bit earlier than that. And we started coming again. And then I introduced it to my husband, and the story goes from there.
So Rochester, New York, how long of a drive is it from there to here?
It's about 6.5 hours or so. And in those days, in the 60s, mid 60s, the flying was not really an option anyway. And so we would load up the car, and my brother and I would sleep in the back of the station wagon all night. And then we would arrive in beautiful Chatham.
That's what I remember too, because we drove up from Scarsdale, and it was about the same time because those days on 95 there were 7, I think, tolls that we had to stop for,
Yeah,
and
tolls,
it just took
right.
a long time. And same thing, we'd be in the back of the station wagon with the flatbed, and if we were lucky, we would get in late at night too. But if we were lucky, there was a donut store that was open, and we grabbed donuts for the next day. But
There
the
you go.
long drive was so part of the journey to come to the Cape. Yeah. And how long would you
Yes.
stay then when you were a kid?
It was very challenging for my parents to make it work. So it was usually 1 or 2 weeks at the most. And
Mhm.
we have lots of pictures and vivid memories of staying at the Chatham Crest hotel. I guess it was called, maybe motel, which was over near Ridgeville. And then years later, when my
Uh-huh.
parents would come and join us, my dad wanted to go look at the old compound at Chatham Crest, and we discovered that it had been sold, and each of the little bungalows had been sold off. So it's a fond memory, and it was actually part of a scavenger hunt I created last year, along with many other places that are no longer here, like the Christopher Ryder House and other places, Thompson's
Yeah.
Clam Bar. But in any case, we would usually be here a week or 2 weeks, and ironically, I am speaking to you from Oyster Pond, and I have lots of photographs of me alone or me with my brother from, of course, then it was more known as Children's Beach. but I have a number of photos, and now I live quite near Oyster Pond, so it's kind of come full circle.
And did you ever take swimming lessons there?
I
I don't think
I
I did.
did.
I might have once or twice, but
I would love to tell you that I did because that would really be a nice nostalgic aspect to this, but I did not. I took my first swimming lessons once we moved to California.
yeah, I'm not sure if they offered them at the time, so that's why I was just wondering. Um, so okay, so then you moved to California and you met your husband, you had your kids, and you brought your kids back.
Yeah.
But now you don't live in California. Now you are in the
Right.
DC area.
Right. So my husband and I, the first time I brought him here, was we were both in law school. He had just finished, and we took a trip to New England. He had never been, and I insisted that Chatham be on the route. And we actually stayed at the Cyrus Kent House, which we now walk by the new version of that, which is a private home, every day with our dog. But I introduced my husband to the Cape, and the only thing that initially he found wrong with it was that as a kid growing up in DC, he would go to the Outer Banks where the water is quite warm. And on the first time that he came to Chatham, he dropped his towel on Oyster Pond and ran into Oyster Pond, not knowing that it would be on the chillier side. So he eventually overcame that. And then we introduced our children to it, and they know nothing else. For summers, they would come to the Cape. They would often leave to go to sleepaway camp, and then they would return at the end of sleepaway camp back to the to Chatham so that they could round out their summer finishing up in Chatham. And it's been a part of our family ever
Oh,
since.
that's wonderful. I love that about the cold water because what I was thinking is the oyster pond is actually the warm water
Yes, so
on
that
the
gives you a
Cape.
sense. Exactly. That gives you a sense of what it must be like in the Outer Banks. Because, yes, you and I both know that Oyster Pond, of all the options, at least is something you can kind of get into. But I think he was expecting it to be a bath or something. I don't know. Anyway, very funny.
Yeah, we dunk in the off of Water Street as a family, and I go in maybe once or twice a summer. I'm not a big cold water swimmer, but my kids are in just about every day, so
They
they
don't care.
certainly have acclimated. They don't care. So when you were coming up with the kids, when you got your house here, were you did you come on weekends too in the winter? Did you come in the off season a lot?
So we started bringing the kids to the first house that we had here in Chatham, and we would spend the summers. But it was truly a summer and with kids, and you come in the middle of June and you leave in the middle of August, or maybe you'd get to Labor Day. And then we decided to start doing our Thanksgiving here. And so for, I think now it's been, I don't know, 20 something odd years where we do come for Thanksgiving almost always. There's been a few situations that have prevented us from coming, and occasionally we've come for first night, and also, as we are empty nesters, my husband and I now try to find some time in the winter, whether it's a week or a weekend, to be up here. We've actually gotten caught in a couple blizzards where we thought we were going to be here for just several days, and it turned into 10 days or what have you. But yes, we have. We started to integrate travel to Chatham in the off season while we could with the kids at home, and then everything changed when we became empty nesters.
And empty nesters, and you work too, and you are
Yes.
a environmental attorney, is that right?
I am. I am. Yep. Yep. Although part
Yes.
time and now very different than it was years ago. But we both still work. And luckily for us, we are able to work remotely. And then when we did become empty nesters, which has been a very long time now because both of our children are adults and off on their own, Adam and I really started expanding our period of time here. So while we still consider ourselves part time, and and I'm not sure that that will change. I'm not really certain how that's going to play out for the next, number of years. But it became very clear that we were no longer just summer residents, and I was very pleased about that change. And so I would say it's about 50-50, maybe an extra month in the DC area as opposed to up here. So maybe it's 7 months there, 5 months here. But it's very different than
Mhm.
being just a summer resident.
Yeah, you can really get involved in the community. And with the environmental, I was thinking about what are your thoughts on how well or not well like Chatham is doing to protect and preserve our environment here? You have an interesting background to kind of address.
I do. I do. I am not as intimately involved with a lot of the um, issues facing Chatham as a town, but there are some things that are very hot topics, particularly with regard to drinking water, PFOS. That has become a massive issue, not just for Chatham, but up and down the
Mhm,
Cape. And
mhm.
obviously, we're in the middle of a drought right now, but my issues for environmental law are a little bit more related to what I would call more urban centers, and also a lot of product manufacturers and what they are doing to try to proactively address what could be problems down the road. But I would say that for a small seasonal town, I think that Chatham is striving hard to do the right thing. But again, a lot of times it comes down to funds and funds available and what the priorities are. And obviously, environmental is now just one more priority for the town.
Sure. It's hard. There's a lot of conflict between some of the priorities, especially when you have a small town government, small
Yes.
town
Yep.
budget. You can't do it all. But you've dove headfirst into some of Chatham's fun parts and some of being involved in town government. You are on the Chatham Cultural Council, which I really didn't know a lot about. I read a little bit about it, but why don't you explain sort of what the council is, who they've given grants to, and how you found it being enriching for people that live here?
When we realized that we were not just summer residents, and I understood that we were going to be here for more than a few months in the summer, it was very important to me that I figure out ways to become involved in both town government, town opportunities, whether it's a sailing school, yacht club, whether it's the committees that I serve on, doing a part time job, those kinds of things became very important to me. And I started by learning more about the Cultural Council. The Cultural Council is the local, um, what I would call branch, although that's not exactly the right word, but the local advisory for what is a larger Massachusetts um, cultural commission. And the MCC, along with the town, gives a grant. And then that is coupled. So the state gives a piece and the town gives a piece. And then we also do fundraising. And we come up with a pot of money that every fall we accept applications that are for programs most specifically focused on the arts, culture, music, live performance, science. If there are some science things, we've done some grants with regard to some of the museums that are helping. And we focus on programs that are geared specifically to children and the elderly. And we accept applications in the fall. And then our council, which used to be five, but is now growing, I'm glad to say, um, we assess the applications and what the programs are. And then in December, our council has a big meeting where we distribute the funds, and we give out anywhere from, some years it's been twelve to $15,000, some years it's been $18,000. I'm not sure it's ever exceeded 20, but don't quote me on that. And we give
Mhm.
numerous grants, and they range from anywhere from a couple $100s for a wonderful, perhaps program for the kindergarten, for example. But we also give out large amounts of money. For example, we support First Night. We do various music options, jazz, drums out on the beach. We do like puppet presentations, magic shows. We also support a number of programs that support the seniors in town, and whether that is holding something at the community center that is specifically designed for seniors, or whether it's going to the community, the Center for Active Living,
Community
or
center.
whether it's going to some of the assisted living facilities. Our mission is really directed toward serving families, children, and the elderly with cultural programs that might not otherwise be able to come to Chatham. And again, these are not
Right.
super large amounts of money, but they are important because otherwise some of these programs would not be able to be undertaken. And so that has been extremely rewarding for me. And yeah, so that's one of the first ways that I got involved and made me feel like more than a summer resident.
Well, I love drumming on the beach. That sounds pretty fun, actually. That
Yeah,
sounds like a neat
we
event,
support
and
that.
it's something, you're right, something that you wouldn't think that would be coming to the town. And I did see you do programs at the library for the children and
Yes.
something with Oktoberfest, because
Yes.
I was talking to someone yesterday, was talking about how great it is that the town has so many opportunities to bring the merchants and get the merchants involved and be together, like the Oktoberfest and, first night, and, the Thanksgiving activities too. So it's good to have
It's
those
been very
enriched a little bit.
rewarding. Yes.
That's great. It's an important mission too. You've also been helping on the parade committee. And I was thinking about that as I was watching this year's parade. It was so much fun, but that is a huge undertaking, especially with just the large number of people. I mean, do you know how many people even were at the parade? It's just huge.
So I think that this year was exceeded 40,000, but I'm not sure that the police have, and they do something with drones. They kind of estimate how many people attended. I think it was around 40,000. We had 88 floats, if I recall correctly. We had a wonderful grand marshal, our 102-year-old veteran, John Zippo was our grand marshal. So yeah, so in addition to the Cultural Council, which is very meaningful, I also wanted to do some fun things and discovered that there was an opening on the parade committee. And our committee is small, but very dedicated and enthusiastic. And we have 5 people on the committee who do everything from recruiting the bands and arranging for the participants and working with the town to handle all of the logistics. And it's a little bit of a sleepy committee in the fall and the winter. And then all of a sudden, sort of February, March, it hits you and you're like, oh gosh, the parade is literally in 3-4 months. I think that this year's was really successful and a lot of fun. And yeah, it was wonderful. And I've really enjoyed my work there. This year, I kind of handled a lot of the communications along with somebody that the town has hired to support social media and the website and things like that. So I had a lot of fun doing the press releases and creating a lot of sort of kitschy and campy communications that also went in the main sheet. And it was great. And the parade was a massive success. So I've loved being on that committee as well.
It was. Just a huge. I was thinking of you as I was watching it. I was like, how do you even, I was on first night committee long ago, and that it's a massive undertaking. There's so many logistics, and we had a very hot day this year.
Yeah.
So I'm sure emergency services wise, that must have been a big worry for the committee, and like making sure. I'm sure our town services are great, so I'm sure they had a good plan going forward. But it's so fun to walk up and down Main Street. The years I've been in the parade, you can't even believe how many people are there. You can
Exactly.
It just goes on and on and on and on.
Yeah. No,
But
it's so
on everybody's list.
quintessential. It's quaint. It's really charming, and watching the kids and then watching multi-generations be at the parade, sit in their usual spots. It's really, yeah, it just reminds us how special Chatham is and how nice we have it to be able to live in such a wonderful town and participate in things like that. So it's been very enriching.
And it's such a tradition for so many people. I mean, they're like, of course we're going to the parade. Where are we going to park? Where are we going to go? We're going to, everybody, as
Exactly.
you said, has their meeting spots, right? That
Yes.
I have
Yep.
friends who say, oh, come down and meet us. I was like, oh no, I'm not meeting anybody. I'm doing my thing that I do
Yeah.
every year with my family, and we're doing, it's very funny. So you've got involved in quite a bit in town. How has that changed your view, sort of, as you're not here on vacation right now? You're living here, right? So it's a
Yeah. Yeah.
totally different
Yeah.
perspective.
That's a very good way to put it. And when people, our friends in the DC area, know that we're leaving, in the springtime, they say something like, "Well, have a good vacation." And I always correct them, and I say, "It's not a vacation; it's a change of venue." And you have hit the nail on the head. We are now living here. We are not just vacationing here. And between
Hmm.
the Cultural Council, the Parade Committee, and then there's a number of other things that I've gotten involved with. I'm very active in the Stage Harbor Yacht Club. I've worn a lot of hats there. I'm now teaching Mahjong. I co-chaired the auction several years ago. I ran merchandise. I served on their board. That's been wonderful. Also, I'm now doing a little bit of what I would call journalism adjacent work on Chatham Living magazine, writing some small little pieces about things like first night and the parade. Um, but and this summer, I actually also
From Living
took a job.
Magazine. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, Chatham Living
Oh, yeah.
magazine.
Good
Yes,
job.
yep.
Chatham Living magazine is just it.
Oh,
They have done such a beautiful job with that magazine. It's
it's
really,
gorgeous.
it's a year-round coffee table book, right?
Yes,
That
literally.
sits that everybody has. Beautiful. The stories are great, and so you're writing for them. Is that right?
I am doing a few little pieces here and there. I do enjoy writing very
Mhm.
much, and a piece that I was doing on the parade alerted Sonia Bartlett, the editor, that I had a knack, and she has asked me to do some other pieces, which I'm very eager and excited about. But it's yet one more way to develop a network, and then I also took a small part-time job this summer. But to answer your question, what I would say the biggest difference to me, Barb, is I finally feel like I have a network here. Um, I finally feel like when I walk down the street, I see people I know, which is huge because, the notion of being here for half the year, but actually bumping into people, and whether it's friends, whether it's people I serve on committees with, um, it's been, it's been really, really gratifying. Um, my husband is a participant on the Pan Mass Challenge Chatham team, which is called the Crush Tour. And there's about 130, 40 people who participate. But that was also a way that he finally developed his own group of friends. And we've now met spouses and partners. And it really has changed our entire connection to Chatham. And like you said, it's not vacationing anymore, it's living. And I feel like the effort that we've put in to developing a connection that is stronger than just the beaches and the summer, for us, it's at the right time in our lives. And we've given our kids the gift of Chatham, and now we're feeling more and more connected than we ever did. And it's really expanded our entire, just our feeling. I don't know how to put it exactly into words, but we really do feel like this is home. And it's not just
That
a part-time home.
And it's different probably than your other home, especially because at your other home, you probably had to get up and go to work for all those years,
Yep.
right? And here
Yes,
you have your
exactly.
day to kind of plan. Not that you're not working, you're working in so many different areas. I don't know
Exactly.
how you
Yes.
fit it all in, but yeah. And that Crush Tour is to me an example of this community. The Crush Tour is in honor of someone who lost their life to glioblastoma at a young age. It was a very tragic time. So the Pan Mass Challenge that Susan's referring to, and correct me if I misstate this, is a bike ride from Boston to Provincetown that people do to help raise money for cancer, and the team likes to put it towards the glioblastoma research too, I believe.
Yeah. There are a couple different, so you can either start from Wellesley. This year, the other start
Okay.
is Worcester. And the first day you make it to Bourne. And for the real diehards, and perhaps maybe the younger crowd, they sleep at I'm forgetting the name, the academy that's there, the Merchant Marine Academy, I think it's called. And then they get up the next morning right
Yeah,
before sunrise. Yes, thank you. Sorry. Yes. And then they get up before sunrise and then they leave. They cross the bridge as the sun is coming up and they go to P-Town. Um, and other people don't stay overnight there. They maybe come back to Chatham, and then all of us Sherpas, very, very early, 4 o'clock in the morning, we drive them back to Bourne so that they can then go, but have slept in their own beds. And then you're right, they finish in P-Town, and it's quite exciting in P-Town. Thousands and thousands of riders, and of course the 100 and plus on the Crush Tour team. And it's really very gratifying. And again, has developed a sense of community, which again is what I am trying, have found a way to answer your question, that I think that when you live somewhere, you create a community. And when we were simply vacationing, I was running around after children. I was focused on the family vacation. I was focused on what's for dinner, and where are we going to go
Back
for
the
fish and chips,
cooler
and
for
that.
the beach. Yeah.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And now these are ways that it has become very important for us to feel like we have a sense of community.
Yes, and the crush tour, even when it happened, when it was so tragically happened, this town really rallied around the family. And
Yeah.
I'm sure you feel, if there's, did you say 100 riders for crush tour this year
I think
or
it's
something
about
like that?
130, maybe 130
Wow.
something. Now, not to be clear, not everybody lives in Chatham and has the ability to be doing training rides all summer, but they all come
Sure,
out for
sure.
that weekend. There's a core group who rides every Sunday morning at like about 6:15, 6:30. And they have like a wonderful little habit that they ride from Chatham up to Orleans. They have coffee at the Hot Chocolate Sparrow, and then they turn around and come back.
Mm.
And then through that, like I said, we've expanded our network, and you just never know where you're going to be able to meet people and build your community.
Well, I just love to hear this because I like to hear that when people do decide to spend more time here, people are welcoming. Not that it's easy to be the new kid anywhere, but there's so many people
Right.
in your same situation. And Chatham's such a blend too of summer, year round, part time, seasonal. Everybody sort of understands that,
Yes.
what it's like to be kind of the new kid. So I love
Yeah.
that you've been so involved and you feel like this is your home.
We really do. And when I think about all of the memories that we have created, both as vacationers and living here, both of our sons at various times worked at Chatham Bars Inn. They did the anglers years and years ago, the baseball clinic, bandstand. It just,
Yeah.
all of these things have given us the traditions in our family. And I'm really excited about the ways that we are giving back, but also building a sense of being connected here. So
It's that's great. And your kids, like, what are their feelings? Are they able to come up a lot? I'm assuming both the boys are employed
they're
and whatnot.
yeah, they are employed, have jobs, and one of our sons lives in Boston and plays a lot of golf, so he does come down as often as he can. Sometimes he doesn't even see us, he just comes down to play around, and then he goes back to Boston. But he definitely tries to spend a lot of time in Chatham. And our other son and his wife got married at Chatham Bars Inn last summer, and they live in Chicago, and they are both working very hard and have not quite as much ability to get here. It's a little more challenging when you don't live in Boston or New England, but they come, and they too have the love of Chatham and the connection. So it's nice when they come.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite. I used to work downtown, and one of my favorite things was watching, the families be together. It's not just a vacation spot where you go off by yourself. It's everybody. It brings everybody together, and especially at Thanksgiving with the turkey trot,
Exactly.
you see
Oh, for
all the
sure.
families as a clump together. So that's a wonderful part of it too. Well, my last question, which I'm sure you know, is where is your favorite place in town? Where's your secret spot?
And I've been thinking about this because I knew you were going to ask me. Um, Whether, no matter what season it is, I have to say that the Barclays Pond trailhead off of Old Queen Anne is the beginning of wonderful days for me. I go with Ryder, our dog, named after obviously Ryder and all the riders in Chatham,
Hmm.
and I do all the
Hmm.
ponds. So I think it's Mary's, Goose, and Schoolhouse. And I almost never come across any other people, although I would be delighted to. It's just a quiet place, and I love the change of the seasons. So when I go there in the winter, I see no leaves on the trees and I see the pond almost frozen. When I go there in the spring, I start to see the leaves coming out and the pond is, starting to have some wildlife. And it's just, to me, that whole area and it's literally in our backyard. I mean, it's, a mile and a half from my house. So it may be 2 miles. But I do that a lot. I try to get there at least once a week. And that is one of my very sort of secret spots. And I love that.
That's a good answer. I too explore a lot of the trails, not only just in Chatham, but on the Cape. And
Oh, there's so
it's so
many.
surprising because you just think of it as a beach place, and there's so many
Right.
beautiful woods trails.
Yes.
Well, a lot of them are very well marked and very fun to kind of explore.
Exactly. And one of the other places that's very special to me, as I alluded to earlier, is of course Oyster Pond, given the history that I have there. But I'm very cognizant of no dogs on the beach in the summer months and into early fall. So at least going over to Barclays, we can take the dog, and she loves exploring there. And then in the off season, we always stop at Oyster Pond on our way into town. So it's wonderful, the
Oh,
options of trails around here.
yeah, that's great. What a good answer too. I love that. Well, thanks, Susan. Thanks so much
Of course.
for making the time and having to go to an alternative location today to record this. I'm so glad you did.
Thank you.
It's been really fun to chat. And thank you for all you're doing to, make the town a little bit better. I think it's really
Thank
wonderful.
you.
There are a lot of people that, keep doing their own things, and somebody that gives back is really valuable. So it's much
Well, thank
appreciated.
you. And thank you for what you're doing. I have loved every podcast. I was delighted when I heard you were starting it, and I have just enjoyed all the conversations. So thank you for what you do too.
That's very nice. Thanks. I
Uh-huh.
appreciate it.
Of
Well,
course.
go out there and have a good day. It's a little
Yeah.
windy, but it's
Little
beautifully
windy.
sunny today. So I
Yep.
hope, I hope you can get a good full day in, and no doubt you will with how busy you are. So
Thank
we'll
you for
talk to you
having me,
soon.
Barb. Bye.
Thank you, Susan. Bye. For more local stories, favorite spots, and inspiring people who chose Chatham, follow and subscribe to Chatham Coffee Tour and stay connected. Whether you are already here or dreaming about life in Chatham, this is your place to belong.